So if you have had your musical ear to the musical ground, you may have heard that Moog is increasing the prices of some of its synthesizers. The shock horror headline figure that some places are reporting is 60%. Now, I'm not sure how true this may be, but I have pulled together information from several sources and I have attempted to collate it and make some sort of sense of it, which I would like to share with you. So, of course, we will see what sort of difference this may make to the price of certain Moog synthesizers, but I would also like to extend this a little bit further to look at the effect it might have on synthesizer prices in general. And in doing that, I will look at some of the causes of these potential price increases and see where we might be heading. It may not all be doom and gloom, although at the moment it possibly looks that way. I will also offer a couple of suggestions which you may or may not like. So first of all, I do not have any inside information on this proposed price increase. The only information I could find on the Moog website was this sort of half apologetic statement. Now, I totally understand that manufacturers do not want to announce price increases because that does not go down well with consumers. So I am assuming that these other sources have more information than I have, although I also think some of them are speculating a little bit based on I don't know what. Now, I'm not going to link to any of these because this seems to be a rapidly evolving situation. But if you go to Google and enter Moog price rises or price increases, then you will get a list of sites and possibly videos which talk about it, and they are likely to be more up to date. Now, the sources I have used are, I think, about 3 or possibly 4 music news websites who I generally sort of trust, and comments in a couple of YouTube videos. The price rises reported by all the sources I have seen so far only apply to 3 instruments: the grandmother, the DFAM and the Sub 25. So I'll get back to these in a second. Some sources have said that the price hike is going to be around 60%, which is pretty horrific, but one source quoted very specific percentage increases of something like 30 point something percent and 41 point something percent. So it sounded like they had a little bit more information than some of the other sources. So I would be more inclined to think that the price rise is going to be nearer to 40% rather than 60%. But again, I have no inside information on this. And 40% is still an horrific amount. Some sources also suggest that this price has been applied in the first place in Europe, although everyone expects it to filter through to America in due course. In fact, over the last couple of weeks, a few people on forums have reported seeing the price on Sweetwater skyrocket for a short period and then drop back down again. So before we get into the whys and wherefores, and this will involve a little bit of speculation, but hopefully, shall we say, informed speculation, let's just look at the price of the grandmother. Now, as regular viewers of this channel will know, I have a Moog grandmother. It's in the corner there. I've done a lot of videos about the Moog grandmother. It is one of my favorite synthesizers. I bought it 2 years ago, almost to the day. Happy birthday, grandma. And at the time, as you will also know if you've seen some of my other videos, I paid over the odds for it. It was one of the first dark grandmothers to appear in the UK, and consequently I paid about £150 more for it than I could have paid had I got a pastel one. In fact, I paid £950 for it. So let's have a look at the current price of grandmothers. So Google is very helpful because if you put a piece of equipment into the search bar, it gives you a list of retailers where you can buy the equipment along with the prices. So I generally use this just as a quick indication of the current price of any piece of gear. And you can see, if you look along the line here, that the general price is around £750. So in the last 2 years, the price has definitely come down, and the last time I checked the price of the grandmother, that was several months ago, it was still around the same. So I don't think the price has changed very much. There is one anomaly here. So if we assume that the current price of the grandmother is around £750, if we add 40% to that, we get £1,050. Now that is only £100 more than I paid for mine. So Moog or not, at that sort of price, there is a massive amount of competition, not just in good sounding mono synths, but in poly synths as well. So Moog is not only increasing the price, it is increasing the amount of competition which customers will have if they are looking to buy a synth in that price range. So before I bought the grandmother, I was also looking at the matriarch. Now this was at the time, I think, around twice the price of the grandmother, and to be honest, I just didn't think it was good value. I thought it was overpriced, to be honest, and I thought the grandmother also, I thought a little bit expensive, but I thought it represented much better value than the matriarch. Now, I think it's strange if Moog is increasing the price of the grandmother and not the matriarch, because if it is due to situations which we shall discuss in a second, then the matriarch will share a massive amount of similarities to it. So if Moog increases the price of the grandmother but not the matriarch, then the price differential between the two is narrowed, and the matriarch becomes a much more attractive proposition. But again, at this price point, the matriarch has a lot of competition. So if we look at the DFAM, the going rate, shall we say, seems to be just over £600 in most cases. Now I paid £650 for my DFAM. I had a bit of a Moog splash out 2 years ago. I bought the grandmother, the DFAM, and the Subharmonicon. I didn't get on with the Subharmonicon and sent it back. I made a video about it if you want to check it out and find out why. So again, looking at the DFAM, this seems to have come down in price over the last couple of years. Now, if we're talking about value for money, then I really do have to say that I think this is quite seriously overpriced. It's £600. For another £150 you can get a grandmother. Now I know they are totally different instruments, but I think the price differential between the two is not great enough. Not that the grandmother should go up, which it looks likely to do, but the DFAM should perhaps come down. For significantly less than this, you can get a fully fledged drum machine from Arturia and many other manufacturers, although this isn't your average drum machine. So if we look at why this has happened, well, we all know there's a chip shortage. We know that fuel has gone through the roof. There are many raw material shortages, and a whole host of outside world influences are causing prices to rise. And we are seeing inflation, certainly in the UK and I believe elsewhere, starting to take off because of it. So I think it's inevitable that most manufacturers are going to increase the price of their synthesizers. Now, for most people, price is an absolutely critical part of their buying decision. Now, while a manufacturer might love music, the majority are in it to make money, and you will have noticed that manufacturers tend to price their products at what we call psychological price points. So it's $599 and not $600 or $849 and not $900, because of course $599 is so much less than $600. At least that's the way our brains think. And another thing about the pricing of goods is that most companies price goods according to what they think the market will stand. In other words, how much can we charge for this and get away with it? Now, that might seem slightly cynical, but I do believe that is true. Market forces will in part determine just exactly how much a manufacturer can charge for anything, but they are, after all, in business to make as much money as they can. So you might be wondering when these price rises are going to come into effect. Well, that I do not know. As we saw in one grandmother example, one retailer was charging significantly more than the others. Now, I believe most retailers, certainly in the UK and Europe, who sell online, monitor their competitors' prices on a regular basis, probably daily, and I believe some monitor it even more frequently than that. Now, I don't think the object is necessarily to come up with the lowest price, otherwise that would just lead to a race to the bottom, but I think they do try to remain competitive within a certain price range. So even if prices do increase, I would hope that this practice will continue, so retailers will give customers the best price that they can. Isn't competition wonderful? So what is quite likely to happen, and again I'm just guessing because I have no inside information, is that retailers will probably sell existing stock at existing prices. When new stock arrives at new prices, then of course they will be forced to increase the price. So we may see some sort of price differential between retailers who have old stock and retailers who have new stock. We may also see retailers who have old stock seeing that retailers who have new stock have increased their prices. They may also increase their prices as well. Now, how long it will take for the situation to resolve is anyone's guess, but my suggestion would be, if you want a Moog grandmother DFAM or sub 25, it's probably a good idea to get online, see what the best price is currently, and buy one before they go up, because they will inevitably go up. And having said that, it's quite likely that other synth manufacturers will be forced to follow suit, so prices of other synths may well go up in the not too distant future as well. Now, what I find strange about the Moog price increase announcement, which I haven't actually seen, but the fact that they have just stuck on such a massive increase in one go. I would have thought that most manufacturers will slowly increase their prices, particularly as they bring out new products, to soften the blow and so as not to give the impression that they are upping their prices by 40%. That really doesn't look good. So I think it's a little bit strange that Moog should do it in this way, as it will obviously upset a lot of potential customers. To put my cynical hat on again, perhaps by announcing that the prices are rising by so much will encourage people to rush and buy existing products before they increase in price. Maybe I should have been a marketing manager. So one final thought on this. Although I do love hardware, I think there's just a connection between the user and the music which comes out of it when you can put your hands on and twiddle the knobs and move the sliders. I think it is much more immediate. It's much more fun than using a software instrument. Now, I know a lot of people do prefer software instruments, which is totally fine. They are much cheaper and generally much more powerful. You can do a lot more in software than you can in hardware. So the other option, although I hesitate to say it for the people who do like hardware synthesizers, is to look at software alternatives. I'm sure you probably have done so already. Now, I'm not aware of a grandmother, a DFAM or a sub 25 emulation, but there are certainly emulations of Moog synthesizers, and there are a lot of other synthesizers which can do very similar things to the Moog instruments. So that is a way to save money and still get some super sounds as well. Now, if there is any light at all at the end of the tunnel, the chip shortage is supposed to get resolved towards the end of 2022 and going into 2023. So at least manufacturers will be able to get the chips they need to make their synthesizers, although I suspect chips will have increased in price significantly. Also, we are in the middle of a world energy crisis. According to some experts, this will not last forever and prices should come down, although they say it may take a couple of years. But as you know as well as everyone else, I think, in the world, once prices go up, it is very difficult for manufacturers to reduce them. So maybe not so much light there after all. So that's basically it for this video. The message is go out and buy your synthesizers now before they go up by an even more ridiculous amount, or go soft. And while you're pondering what to do next, perhaps I could ask you ever so kindly to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Thank you, so you get informed of new videos as soon as I release them. And even though perhaps you didn't like to hear what I had to say in this video, if you did appreciate the video, then maybe you would like to click the big thumb, because that helps enormously. I will be back soon with something hopefully a little more positive, but keep your eye on the situation, keep your eye on synth prices, and make the best decision that you can. Whatever you do, don't stop making music. See you soon.